right, well, welcome back to another episode of the Create the Ripple podcast. I am your host, Candace Smiley, and today's episode, I'm going to be talking to the amazing Anika Wilson. Anika Wilson is an incredible leader, entrepreneur. She's also an empowered Black woman. And recently, I had the opportunity to be on her podcast panel where we discussed women of color in leadership. Now, it was an accidental opportunity for me to get on there. I don't know how I ended up there, but thankfully, Anika and the other panelists were very open to me being there. We ended up engaging in a pretty incredible conversation. I'll have a link to that episode down below in the show notes. But I had to have Anika back onto my show to discuss some of the awarenesses that came from that particular podcast. How I, as a white woman, am actually afraid of the angry Black woman. And where does that come from? And how do I make an impact? And what's next for me now that I know, and I've known for a while, that I have privilege, but what do I do with that privilege? And how do I do better as I'm raising my daughter to be aware of other minorities' struggles and challenges? And what's the impact of that? Both of us as women and as leaders and as entrepreneurs. So come and join me today as we explore some of those things, as I dip my toe into issues that are foreign to me, that I'm learning to about and want to learn more about, so that we can begin to bridge the gap, because I know that I've been late to the party and I need to get caught up. All right, have a great listen. Hey, I wanted to talk to you a minute today about the gig economy. What is the gig economy? It's basically the side hustle, side income economy that's become so popular today and age. I hope you're still listening to this ad because it's really important for me. I was in the network marketing industry for over 13 years, and I had an incredible experience. I learned a ton of things, but there were many things about the industry of network marketing that I really didn't love. One of which was the overinflated products. Number two was the fact that I had to build a team or balance those things that we would call legs, the whole pyramid thing. I really was done with that. About a year ago, I was introduced to a social retail company. Social retail simply means that we are using our social media platforms, which are free, by the way, to promote products and services that we love. The affiliate marketing is booming. Not even going to lie. It's an incredible place to be in. And I am speaking to the woman who's in her 30s or maybe in her 40s, and she'd like to create that extra income. She'd like to create income on her own time. And she'd like to do it in a company that isn't all about the hype, that has some real products that she can get behind, and would work with somebody who wants to teach her how to do that. If that's you, then I would really love it if you would reach out to me. Feel free to comment below or leave me an email. Scan the code. I'm sure there's a code somewhere if you're watching on my YouTube channel, but I would love to get in touch with you. And this is why. The company that I'm with, modere.com or modere.ca, depending on where you're at, check out shiftingretail.com. So that's shiftingretail.com. I want you specifically to go check out the values of this company and what their mission is. That was really important for me. I got flown down to the corporate offices and I had a chance to meet with the corporate crew and meet with the visionaries that are really driving the company forward. And what I discovered is this. The first thing they said to me was, Candace, when people come here from a network marketing company, they start making money. Now, disclaimer, this is work. This is going to take work. This is going to take energy, effort, time, and skill. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. Those don't exist, at least not ones that I would like to put my name behind. However, this company pays us 10 to 36% on commissions of whatever we've moved within our business. And we get paid daily. We get paid up to twice daily. Biggest, coolest thing about this, if I move product, I get paid on the product, period. No balancing legs, no having to do any of that stuff. If product moves because of a referral that I did, whether it was through my social media, through a swipe up influencer, or a person-to-person conversation, doesn't matter. I'm going to get paid on it. And for me, being paid on the work and the effort that I do is important. So If this is something that's intriguing to you, I invite you to head over to shiftingretail.com or head over to Smiley, that's CSMILEY.shiftingretail.com, and you'll be able to join my team directly. If you've got some more questions, please comment below or find a way to contact me and get in touch, because I would love to share with you how we're building this and how affiliate marketing is the place for you to be. And trust me, once I show you how to do it with this company, I will show you the many companies, brick and mortar stores, you name it, sole proprietors, entrepreneurs who have an affiliate-based idea. And once you can do it with one company, you can do it with any of them. So I'm excited to teach you that. In fact, so excited, we're going to give you 120 days of done for you posts or text that will help you so that you don't have to worry about what to post or when to post or how to post it. We're going to give all of that to you. You just got to show up with drive, determination, and some cash flow to get you started. $39.99 gets you your affiliate link and code and gets ready to start. Maybe you want to try some product too. It's awesome. But up to 2 customer orders actually qualifies you for commission. So you don't even have to place an order, provided you've got customer orders that are moving in your business. Brand new customer orders qualify you for commissions every month. Super cool. Definitely an opportunity for somebody who wants to come in, put some effort in, and work with integrity, work with honesty, but really begin to use the social media time that right now is really just wasted time and turn that into cash flow. Awesome. Hope you have a wonderful day and keep enjoying our show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Create the Ripple podcast. I'm your host, Candace Smiley. Here we trust the ningle and we tell the truth. This is a podcast. We are looking to have conversations that matter, conversations that take courage to engage in, where we cut through the noise that exists online to bring you incredible content, amazing speakers, and stories to inspire you to live your best, listen to yourself, and tell the truth of who you are and who you just might become. All right. Well, I am so excited to be back with you all again for another episode of the Create the Ripple podcast. As you know, this year we have been taking a little bit of a different bend than we did last year, in that I'm really entertaining only the guests that talk about subjects that really matter. So one of the topics that really matters that I was recently made aware of that I really was not aware of is Black History Month. It's going on right now if you're listening in live time. And I've become aware of some of the challenges. I knew I had privilege, like, duh, I knew that. What I'm not 100% sure to do about the knowledge now is what to do with it and how to step into the conversation with respect, with dignity, with kindness, with courage. To be honest with you, my dear, like I get like this nervous in the pit of my stomach. And I'm like, oh, this is good. This is the conversation we need to be having today. So without any further ado, my listeners are like, what are we talking about today? I'm going to let my guest introduce herself and just share her story, her bio, and all this kind of stuff. We've had an incredible pre-chat. And then we're going to ask, just go back and forth on some of the questions that I'm dying to ask. And I know other women are waiting to hear the answers too.
Well, thank you so much, Candace, for having me. My name is Anika Wilson. I call myself the Activation Ambassador. I am an African-American woman currently residing in Florida. I'm an active duty military spouse, mother of 3 special needs children, and a PhD student. I'm also the owner of Nobody Greater LLC and the founding executive director of Infinite Women's Network and host of the podcast, Your Voice, Your Power with Anika. And my mission in life is to educate, empower, and equip women to be the authorities that they were created to be. And I do this through leadership development, training, and anything that needs to come with it. So I love to have these taboo conversations. I love to talk about my past. I love to honor my resilience. And I love to celebrate my success. And a lot of times we don't know that we're successful, except that we've overcome some things that other people haven't. And so I know we're going to get into that because a lot of people have a lot of misperceptions of things. And I love breaking down stereotypes.
Okay, so let's give him a little backstory. Okay, I'm not 100% sure how I ended up on the Colored Women podcast panel that you had. I'm really not sure. My producer and I have gone over it back and forth, but I tell you, I showed up and I was like, am I in the wrong place? And to be honest, it was an incredible experience. And I stayed because I have this belief that nothing happens by accident. So I was like, I clearly am supposed to be here today, even if I have no idea what I'm going to bring to the conversation. And we had an incredible conversation. And to be honest, it was like there had been a niggle, which is, the tagline of the podcast, Trust the Niggle, Tell the Truth. There had been a niggle that I needed to know more, that I wanted to be more involved, but I had no idea what questions to even ask. And as you and I had talked about at the very end, you dropped this quote, girl. You dropped this quote that like totally shattered me. And it was all about the creation, about the stereotype of this weak, scared white woman in contrast to the angry Black woman. And I was like, yes, and I'm terrified of her, and I don't want to be. I want to understand. I want to know. I can fix it. Goodness gracious, what can I do about it? And how do I get involved? So let's start there and rip the band-aid off and say, like, what? Like, how? What's going on here?
Well, what's interesting is that, for one, I thought you were accidentally on the podcast. And it was funny because when you said, I don't know anything and I need to know and I want to know, and I honor my ignorance, and y'all help me. And we fell in love with you then. And so, that's one of the reasons why I love my podcast panels, because we never know what we're going to get, you know. But to answer your question, I had no idea I said that, first of all. Second of all, it's true. You know, what's interesting is every job that I've left has been because of a white female boss. It's their insecurities. The last job I had, my white female boss called me a B as I gave her my resignation letter. And you know, what's interesting is that, I was talking to my mom yesterday about the fact that I didn't want a Black son. I had two girls and I was good with that because I didn't want the responsibility of protecting a Black son, especially as a single mom. And what's interesting enough is that I'm raising two Black women and we have completely separate struggles. In the workplace, Black women are essentially like automatically threats. Even, I mean, in the stores, we're different kind of threats, like in the society, but in the workplace, we're threats. In entrepreneurship, we're threats. I think that society places white women against Black men or Black women automatically. And it's always the white woman is the victim. And you see that with Black men and white women too. Anytime something happens, they assume that the Black man did something. Same thing in the workplace. The Black woman is not going to get paid as much, but I guarantee you she's going to work twice as hard.
I guarantee
it. And in most cases, and of course there are exceptions, but Black women are raised to be of service. And I think what happens is that we're often underpaid, undervalued, and undercompensated. And we go through life being perceived as drama queens because we're reactive to the things that happen to us. When we overcome those things and we stand up and say enough is enough, or we somehow voice our opinions about it, we're perceived as angry. And recently I was being interviewed by someone, I have no idea who, and I said, anger is misperceived for passion. Now, if a white man gets up and he wants to yell and chant and taunt and whatever, that's passion. But if a Black woman starts ranting and raving in the way that we talk culturally, using our hands or anything else, we're a threat. And God forbid we say something valuable or we do something valuable, oftentimes it's stolen. And that's part of the reason why I haven't built my team in my own business, because my intellectual properties are something that I have earned through the stripes of my tragedy in life and the expense of my education. And even my strategic partners in business and people that, like you that I talk to, tell me, Anika, why are you getting your PhD? In order to be credible in this society, either I have to have a lot of money for marketing, or I have to have letters behind my name for someone to feel that I have a right to say whatever I want to say. And that's our true journey.
I think that was what really came across for me is, I've been feeling this push back against the patriarchy for a while, right? And it was big for me, but all of a sudden after our podcast, it became aware to me, that it was a struggle for me. It was a bigger struggle for you, and it's a bigger struggle for other minorities as well. And I was like, oh, okay, now this this just won't do, right? Like it was just huge on so many different issues. And this whole perception, I hadn't realized I had the perception for the longest time. And I was chatting on another podcast, and we were talking about even when you're learning colors, right? When we talk about Black as a color, what is it ascribed to? And I was like, I know once you start to realize how subtle this insidious vibe is, it blows your mind and it's everywhere. And I haven't been able to shut up about it. So now that I'm coming to this place, you're right. I don't know. As I was sharing with you before the podcast, I grew up in this bubble. The bubble has definitely burst. And now I'm like, okay, I am late to the party. What do I need to know? I am first and foremost hit with this overwhelming sense of, I wish I could go back and fix it. And it's not even me that did it, which I think maybe stops a few people because they feel this overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, this is bad. Now what? How do we begin to move forward, like honoring, like you'd said, the struggle and the challenge, which is definitely real, in order to make any kind of real change? Because that's what's on my mind and heart. Like, how do we bridge this gap? Because I'm looking at my children, my daughter, my son, and I'm like, I want to leave the world a much better place for them, because they need to stand on my shoulders to make the gap even smaller. But it's got to start here. So how do we start that conversation, right? Like, how do I engage? How do I do that?
Well, first you educate yourself. So, there's two things. You have the education portion, and then you have the experiential learning. I say you educate yourself because, first of all, people don't know the history of Black people. My mother's an anthropologist, and she talks about the fact that, Blacks were there first. Yeah. There's a lot of history, and people don't take the time to learn history, world history, not more than American history. But when you even go deeper than that, like for me, my heritage is Creole out of Louisiana, cool, which is mixed with a whole lot of other things. But then I also have, a mother from New York City and a father from LA. I was raised by military people. I was raised in a town where I was the only Black in my elementary school. I mean, if you look at, like right now, for instance, HBCUs are popular. Well, why do they exist? Because Blacks weren't allowed to go to college. I mean, so if you really educate yourself on Black pride, like where it comes from, why it's perceived the way it is, the Black Panthers, even, they have a bad perception, but they actually created WIC. How many women get WIC for their kids? So there's all these things, and that's out of ignorance, because people don't want to do the work. People just want to go off what somebody else says. And Lord, in the information age with, social media, that's what people just adopt, other people's ignorance. And so the first thing that you can do is go back and educate yourself. Educate yourself on your own family. Like, where did you come from? Where did your people come from? Even 23andMe will blow your mind if you find out that you came from a slave, and, the slaves, maybe your great grandma, you don't know, like, just go back. But then also ask someone, don't ever say, I have a Black friend. Don't ever say, I have a Black coworker, but actually, like, immerse yourself with other Black people, like, get to know them. Because if you get to know someone that doesn't look like you will learn that you actually want the same things. You want a good life. You want safety for your children. If you're a faith-filled person and you believe in God or whatever you believe in, it's the same things that you want for your children, the same things you want for your career, the same things you want for your life. The difference is the pathway to those things is completely different, because for Blacks, it's like qualifying for track and field in the Olympics, where there's a hurdle and another hurdle. And after you jump over that hurdle, then there's another hurdle. And the stronger you are, the more people put hurdles in your way. You know, if you're complacent and you just say, okay, well, I'm just going to be, you know, complacent and just sit here and, you know, work this job for 30 years or stay in this relationship and never buck back, never, you know, push the envelope, never strive and fight for anything, you're not going to have as many hurdles. But if you're a go-getter and you're a visionary and you're educated and you know, you're vocal and you stand for yourself and your family, it's ridiculous how much adversity we face. And then people want to say have grace. Well, every human being only has so much grace. I mean, how many times are we looking at Blacks in their houses getting killed? In their houses, you know, and that's the one place we're supposed to be safe. So educate yourself and immerse yourself in the culture. Like talk to people at church, at work, like just ask them questions about themselves, their families, or how they grew up, because believe it or not, all Blacks aren't the same.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think I love what you said there, because I feel like that's an incredible place to start. And I have been fascinated by the culture. I have my whole life. And I think it's because I grew up in that bubble. And then when I was experienced by, I was like, ooh, tell me more. And you're right about that 23andMe. My brother did that. And we discovered that instead of thinking our heritage went this way, we have a lot more of different cultures than we thought. And we're like, what? We're more that than this? How cool is that? What a great place to start. So I know you do a lot of work around leadership. And, you know, I mean, it's been hard enough for women to get into leadership. I mean, things are changing. There's a rise of the feminine entrepreneur for sure. How much harder has it been for the Black women to be leaders? Like, I feel like that's almost impossible.
Let me tell you. So I always knew I was a leader, but I never felt like I was enough. And one of the reasons why I've gotten my PhD is because I can still only get entry-level jobs. I've worked in social services and law enforcement for over 20 years. I worked in mental health and substance abuse, and it doesn't matter whatever job I put in for, I have not gotten it. And so when I became an entrepreneur, everybody said, oh my gosh, Anika, you're amazing. But when I'm in the workforce, I don't get the same reception. When I first started my business in 2018, I launched a conference in 2019. Women of Impact Conference Series is what it was called. And later it was changed to Influ Action, which is Women of Impact, Women of Influence Taking Action. And our first conference was identity, because when I became a military spouse at the age of 38, I realized that these women had no identity. I walked in a room of spouses, and these are all women pursuing their husband's dreams. And even worse for the men who are spouses, they're like invisible. So one of the problems I faced was that women didn't sign up for the conference because they didn't know they were leaders. It was a leadership conference. And as I dig deeper with my PhD, I learned that the historical perspective of leadership is corporate positioning. And to me, a leader has nothing to do with an executive title. For me, Black women specifically are born leaders. And I say that because leadership is about resilience. It's about what you learn from what you experience, what you learn from the adversity and how you overcome it. And so I've been on this tangent for the last 4 years on trying to beat women upside their head to let them know I'm talking to you, you know, and leadership looks different. I mean, you have leaders who are in the church. You have leaders who are in schools. You have leaders who run businesses. You have leaders who are just the neighborhood lady, you know, the candy lady or whatever. But leadership is about influence. And the historical perspective of leadership is power. Leadership theory is based on the great man's theory, which is about dominance, power, and genetics. Like, you know, people, you still see it in England, born into royalty, born into these things. Well, America being, you know, what it is, we don't believe in that. But if you look at politics and things like that, it's still adopted. And so you have people battling for a voice, like a platform to speak from, to shout from. You've got people like Stacey Adams who are going through voting. She's literally giving people their power through vote. I mean, we're having to be so creative about how we lead. Unfortunately, leadership development is not offered to women like me. And that is what I'm writing my dissertation on. The fact that Black women aren't afforded leadership development. So we continue to be undercompensated. We continue to be overlooked. We continue to be, discounted and misunderstood because we're not given the structure that everybody else is given. And I can say the same in business development. A lot of people are ICF accredited. I don't have $50,000 or whatever to go get another accreditation, but I do have a master's degree and almost a PhD. But the perception that people have on who is credible and who has the authority to lead, it's a mess. And it needs to be fixed because there are so many people. And to your point, that's where Black History Month comes from. We celebrate those people that made those strides, that sacrificed, because back in the day, Blacks who chose to lead were killed. So we have to honor them because they had such short lives, but they were impactful. And then that leads to other people being fearful of being leaders because it's not safe.
Yes.
Here at Awakening the Wise Woman, we know what it's like to start the year with a big, audacious, exciting goal in mind and get to mid-February and realize we've made zero progress towards it. That's why this year we're inviting you to join us in our Awakening Your Goddess Mindset free workshop series at the end of February. This is an opportunity to understand more about yourself and how you work and how to make meaningful change your way. We'd love to see you there.
Hello friends, my name is Rachel Shumway, here to help you set loving boundaries so you can have the best relationship with the most important person in your life, you. Because when you uphold your boundaries, you gain the courage to open up and let yourself be seen, loved, and supported. Through a mix of coaching, cognitive restructuring, and step-by-step conversation strategies, which all starts with my free 4-step badass boundaries process, I give type A, really like type awesome women, the tools to bring confidence into their relationships with authenticity and ease. You can get started by grabbing your free starter kit on how to badassify your boundaries by clicking on the link in the show notes to get started. See you soon!
So for you, as you were coming up, I know you've encountered a lot of struggle. I know you are still pushing through to, become all you can be. Let's talk about that briefly, because I know for a lot of people, when they come onto this, they're dealing with some kind of trauma. And through our stories, we really connect. And I know that's been the case for me, because I look at you and I think, oh, girl, I get it. I get it. And what else can we be doing? And I think it drives you and I, we've been talking about how much we'll do for other people without payment, without any kind of ask back, because we're like, look, I get it. I've struggled. Let me give you at least a leg up and then go and do something with that, right? So that we're all trying to make a difference. So let's talk about that briefly, because I think that's a huge impact. And I know you've got a ton of things on the go. And of course, we're going to have all the links for people to connect with you because you've got so much on the go. And I want people to be able to reach out, feel connected to you, and then begin their conversation and maybe more learning and growth, regardless of the color of her skin, to be involved with what you're doing.
Yes. So you want the backstory of what I'm doing, or you want all that I'm doing?
You know what? Share with me whatever sort of is on your mind and your heart. Trust that intuition.
Well, I'm doing a lot, and everyone says I'm the doer of all things, but sometimes when you're doing all the things, none of it's moving forward. And so I'm in a season right now of simplification. One of the things that I struggled with when I became an entrepreneur is trying to figure out what service to provide to people. In my heart, I knew I wanted to provide resources. I've been a case manager for over 20 years. I never understood that was project management. You have these people, they say they're a project manager, they're automatically paid a good amount an hour. But when you're a case manager and you're in the field and you're going from house to house and you're saving children and, helping elderly and all that, people don't see it the same. A lot of my experience is nonprofit. So, I wasn't paid a lot, but my heart has always been in service. So when I first started my business, I really didn't know what I was or who I was. I just knew that I needed to do something to change things. I knew that when I worked at the substance abuse agency, that once people left, nobody cared. I knew that when I let people out of prison as the release officer, I gave them their bus ticket and nobody cared. I knew that as a single mom, when I was homeless, that, I asked for help and nobody cared. I knew that, when I was going through divorce and I asked for help and nobody cared. You have all of these people who say that they're there for you, but they're not there for you in your darkest times. When I created Nobody Greater, I wanted to fill that gap. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of ways, easy ways, I should say, to get capital or, to get funding, to build a board and to do service-based things like that. And as a business person, I switched to business development. Well, the way that I learned business development wasn't that I went to a school. I had to learn how to do my own websites, build my own podcasts, do my own graphics, and do everything for 4 years on my own. I could tell you I've learned every single platform from Salesforce to Kajabi to Canva to some that I won't tell because they're my secrets. But I mean, I've gone down every rabbit hole and done all these things, and I've struggled because 1 minute I was doing marketing, 1 minute I was doing business development, and it wasn't what I wanted to do. I really want to help women move forward. And if that means that you need a resume, if that means that you need somebody to help you with your FAFSA to go back to school, if that means that you need somebody to walk you through a cancer diagnosis, if that means you need a divorce coach or somebody to just be there to support you, if that means that you have special needs children like I do, if that means your military spouse being sent 7,000 away from everything, I've been there. I've done that. I've had blood clots in my lungs. I have COPD, emphysema, and fibromyalgia. I've been paralyzed. I've been in 15 car accidents. I know the struggle. And you have a lot of people who, just tell their story. But for me, I want to give women tangible results. And that's how the Infinite Women's Network was created. It's a safe space for women to heal, deal, and grow. Because as an entrepreneur, I interview other entrepreneurs, but I also realized that these women don't have a safe space to be vulnerable. So not only am I helping the women at the bottom, I'm helping the women at the top, because the women at the top are the ones that don't ask for help because they're busy being their brand. They're busy trying to keep it all together. They're busy not letting anybody know that, hey, I've got this amazing service, but my life is a hot mess. And I want to be that, yes. It's the full circle, because we don't always have it together. We may shine in one area, but are those other 6 areas of your life a hot mess? Your health, your mental health, your spiritual, we're like, it's not always, all together. And I'm trying to give women permission to be imperfect. That's something that nobody else is talking about. Like, yes, we say like self-care, but is there a space where women are able to get solutions for every area of life and to be able to have access to other women who literally are walking the walk and talking the talk? We can't hire coaches for every area of our life, but if we create a program where it's full circle, it's like, oh, you're in this season now. I was in that season last year, so I could help you through that. But I'm sure you're going to be in the season that I need you for tomorrow. It's that reciprocation that's missing in the world right now, that everybody just wants what you got or needs you for this moment and forgets about you tomorrow. I'm putting an end to that because I'm tired of it.
I love it. And I think about how much I crave, right? Having been a woman at the top, just a space to be vulnerable and be like, I was a hot mess today, ladies. Did not have it all together. I've chosen to home educate my daughter, and she is, girl's a game changer. And sometimes it's a lot. And sometimes I'd like to show up and be like, I didn't have it all together. I don't like always being the smartest person in the room, but I have a really hard time when people look to you for leadership to say, I'm not good today. I don't want to be good today. I don't be responsible for anybody else. I just want to be responsible for me. I want to go back to bed. I want to, have a bath. I need a good old cry, exactly. Or sometimes, hey, an old trauma that I thought I healed to come up because I've gone to the next level in my life and my business. And now I just need a minute. Okay, I need a minute.
That part. And I'm a queen because you know me. You didn't even know me when you got on the podcast. I'm just authentic. It is what it is. You get what you get.
Yep.
Today, I have a shirt that says not today. I wear it like 4 days a week. Because I used to, I was that people
Yeah.
pleaser, and I was always doing what everybody else thought I should do. I was always wondering what somebody else, was going to say.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, that gets us nowhere.
Nowhere.
And today I've learned to honor me and put me first. As a single mom, I never put me first because I felt like I didn't have a right to. And now I'm the queen of dating myself and doing all of those things.
Yeah.
But I'm also learning to tell people no.
Oh, that's a
I
good
know
one.
how to do, well, we know how to do things, but that doesn't
Yes.
mean that we're meant to do it for everybody.
Yes.
And I'm learning that just because I know something, God might have gave me that tool for myself, not to share with the world. And so being able to decipher the two and being able to, nurture and protect your own energy, like that's the season I'm in right now. And I'm also learning that even though I'm getting my PhD, I don't have to pivot right now, because that's my struggle has been one leg in academia, one leg in practical world.
Sure.
And that's hard because even in how I convey my knowledge, it gets missed in translation. I gave myself permission today that I don't have to do what everybody else is doing in my industry just because I'm learning it.
Good. That's awesome.
I can literally just stay in my lane and use those tools to help people be better. But, my heart is centered on those women who want to thrive, and live abundantly. And that's I've always known that. And so that may look different on different days. And that's something that we have to honor as well.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, I love that because I've been learning to, like you said, say no. And it's funny because I just had to say no to a group of people that I said no to a couple of years ago when I did some deep, intensive healing work. And I was like, how did I get back here again? And it was as simple as saying yes to one little opportunity that felt like it was an alignment. And then there was an ask that came there. And so I moved my boundary a teeny tiny bit. I know. I knew better. And then the boundary got moved. And I was like, what? No. And so in my mind, I was laughing. I was like, here, I'm dragging my boundary back to where it needed to be. And I think as women, I feel a lot and have felt a lot, especially during my healing, when I would say, I want to do this. And people say, well, you do this all the time. And I'm like, look, I know who I am. I love who I am. I'm not going to apologize for being a starter and not great in the middle and an incredible finisher. I will hire or attract the right person to run with me in the middle. Let me stay in my strength zone, right? Yes, I know I move from project to project and I have tons of ideas. Let me learn how to direct that and do that piece, because I don't want to be like a belts. I just left 2 social media platforms, hired out the rest of it. And I said, screw it. And people are like, well, then how are you? I'm like, I don't know. All I know is that I don't want to do it. I never wanted to do it. I don't want to do it. And if I'm not tuned in, tapped in, turned on, then I am not being my best. I have so much to share. And you know what? If I need it, somebody's going to show up in my life and say, you really need this platform. I'll say, great. What do you need to get it done? Like, that's what I need. And the second I do that, it's like, poof, all of a sudden we're growing again. We've recently made a little shift in the podcast where I'm only talking about things that matter, because I'm looking out there. I'm like, it is so damn noisy. And I'm done with the noise. So there's stuff to do, ladies. Put your big girl panties on, and we've got stuff to do.
Yep. That is so true. That is absolutely true. And just recently, someone told me that nobody is doing what I'm doing on my podcast. And I'm scared to say it because you know what I do. But it took a guy to tell me that. He was like, no, he was like, first, when I signed up, I didn't know what to expect. And he was like, nobody's doing it. I've been doing it 3 years. Never thought that was my value proposition. And when he said it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's what makes me different. Oh my gosh, because I do it effortlessly. It's just what I do. And, sometimes it takes us a long time to see, to get that bulb. But it's never too late, because we learn so much in the process, and I tell everybody that's preparation. God prepares you for exactly what he needs you to do. You just have to be obedient. Yeah. And I said that word to my assistant. She was like, don't say that word out loud.
Oh, it's a beautiful word.
Obedient. And a lot of times I've had to be obedient when I don't want to be. And, and even right now, I feel like there's a shift and a transition, and I have to kind of retreat so that I could totally receive it. But you have to be obedient, and if you're not, and you try to force things, it's not going to work the way it's supposed to.
No. And it's a masculine energy, right? To push forward. The feminine is all about this flow. And we were created as women for a reason, right? Like we really were. So anyway, we're getting to the end, and we should probably wrap this up. I know people are going to be clicking on stuff to follow you and be involved. I'm excited for some of the nuggets you dropped earlier. Can't wait to be involved. But what do you want to leave the listeners with today?
What I want to leave the listeners with is give yourself permission to lead authentic to who you are. Don't let anyone impact your leadership abilities. Meaning, if someone tells you that you're supposed to do such and such, but your heart tells you you're supposed to do something different, follow your intuition. Your intuition is your gift and it is your protection. So honor your authentic self, create your own identity, and blaze the trails with it. And don't look back.
Amazing. Well, Anika, thank you so much for joining me today for this very, very candid conversation. I loved it.
Anytime. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And for my listeners, you know the drill. We'll have all of her information down below so you can check that out. Click, follow along. Seriously, do. This woman's up to big and amazing things, and I'm excited to be a part of them. And to the rest of you, thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you all on the flip side. Are you looking for a simple, easy weight management solution? I thought you might be. I know I was. I also wasn't interested in something with a ton of gimmick without any science behind it, which I know a ton of companies have. The company I'm about to share with you actually has 12 of their own clinical studies. And for me, with my science-based background, I needed to know that. I also needed to know the product worked. And so I was introduced to the group that, however, had 125,000 members in it, all supporting amazing stories of weight management, weight loss, hair regrowth. Oh my gosh. Not surprising though, considering the product itself has won numerous awards in and out of the nutraceutical industry, which I think is pretty incredible. Pretty exciting as well is the fact that it's made with their patented technology, 7 international patents on the collagen in this product, made entirely from chicken sternum. Chicken sternum, why? Because it most closely mimics the collagen that our own bodies create. Now, I'm a 36-plus-year-old woman, and so making sure that I'm maintaining and taking care of and trying to reverse the clock so I can age gracefully is super important to me. Making sure I'm taking products that are safe, making sure I'm taking products that are approved, and making sure I'm taking products that I would be happy to share because there's integrity at the top. So this company is a values-based company, which I absolutely love. Not only do I love that, but I love the flavors. This is mango. Mango's my favorite. This is from the Modera company, which you've heard me talk about before. 1 simple spoonful a day. In the morning, I can add it to my coffee if I feel like it. I don't add the mango, I add the vanilla to my coffee, but I can add a simple spoonful to my day. It tastes awesome. It tastes amazing. And it's helping my body to maintain the figure that I've worked to get to. Why not? Now, if you're looking for some weight management, this is going to help curb appetite. It's going to help your body to function as best. And we know that when you do something like that and you make wiser choices, your body says thank you. This is part of an entire system called the Lean Body System. I will make sure to post information for that below, or you're welcome to scan the QR code, which I know is going to be somewhere in the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, head over to modere.ca. That's MODERE, modere.ca, or modere.com, and use code 5579027. Again, 5579027 to save $10 on your next order, regardless of what you put in your cart. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of the listen. Just want to do a quick shout out to the Terminal Value podcast. I got to be a guest on this show a couple of weeks ago, and that episode has just launched. We will have links to that episode as well as more details on the Terminal Value podcast down below in the show notes. Thanks for listening.